a big round of applause.
Thanks. Should I start? You say you're going to make something?
Yeah, it's Cody, go for it, man.
Oh, okay. Well, good evening. Thank you very much for coming. I actually feel really, I don't know, different actually being here talking to you guys here at school, but I'm excited and also so that you're going to take some notes. It inspires me actually, so thank you very much. I'm going to give you a very quick introduction of what I do and who am I. I work for Monster.ca, as you know, probably you all know what it is, job board online. We're more than a job board nowadays, we're also technology providers, but my main message today is actually to help you on some career advice focused on resume do's and don'ts, and how to brand yourself on a little piece of paper, and maybe through a little bit of social media. I don't want to get into the other presentations that are coming up later, but you know, in this new changing world, you know, there's really cool and fun ways to make that piece of paper, you know, your own personal brand. Okay, I'm a content writer and editor for Monster. What I do basically, I manage a team of freelance writers who produce content in the career advice section. We talk about resumes, we talk about interviewing, we talk about career development, all you need to learn what's happening in today's world and how to make a recruiter fall in love with you. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit of, is a resume important? Resume do's and don'ts, resume styles, which ones to use, how to avoid sending a resume to the no pile, you know? Because recruiters probably take 9 seconds to look at a resume, and in 9 seconds they will decide whether they will call you or not for an interview. Branding yourself through your resume, tell your story, and non-profit resume tips. And if you have any questions, we'll have a little bit question and answer period, or if you want to interrupt, that's fine by me. Resume importance. Okay, before I go into that, what is the main purpose of a resume? Who can tell me? Very school-wise. Anyone?
To get an interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of selling yourself to whoever you...
Yep. You actually nailed it. I thought people were going to say to get a job, but that's not true. You know, you won't get a job with a resume at all. But it's the little knock on the door that will let people know that you're there. And the importance of actually how loud that knock is what's written in a piece of paper. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So, yeah, resume importance. Of course, it's going to show that you're qualified. It's the best tool to prove to an employer that you deserve the job. It proves that you care. Of course, you're interested in the job. And your resume must send that message that you're serious for the job and passionate about it. Proves you understand the working world. Definitely, if you want to start, you have to start from scratch. And you have to write that piece of paper and you have to send it to many, many people. Believe it or not, it's part of the standard. It's the part of the standard hiring process between a seeker and an employer. It's step number 1. But the purpose of the resume itself, it's not to get you the job, but to open and close doors. Mm-hmm. Resumes must grab the employer's interest. Styles. Many, many types of styles. The most common one, what do you think it is? You don't have to know the term in particular, but you can probably explain it in your own words.
You should be covered. Your education,
It's called the chronological resume. It's the most typical one, the most popular, which contains a summary and an objective. You were saying the education, etc., and states chronologically from recent to past who you are. I just graduated from Concordia and blah blah blah, so on. If you guys are just starting in the workforce, do not use a chronological resume. Step number 1. I don't know, does any one of you here already hold a job or a part-time job, or you're full-time students? job, job, job. Okay, that's good. The rest of you are full-time students. You have no idea what's out there yet. Good. You dare, you're free. No, I shouldn't say that.
Some of us will.
No, I didn't say that. Please
Before.
delete.
No.
No. If you're just starting in the workforce, you're not going to use a chronological resume, okay? Instead, you will create a functional resume, which will highlight your abilities or training instead of chronologically listing all your history. If you have a part-time job, you can use it and put your employment history at the very end. But if you don't have experience in the field, don't worry about it. The most important is you start to highlight what do you do, what do you study, what do you like, what is your passion, or what drove you to study what you are studying right now. Okay? This is an example. I don't know if you can actually read it. Oh, yes.
Sorry, so you said if we already have a job, then we can use it chronologically?
If you have experience, a job experience, you can use the chronological resume because it's the most popular and the most maybe functional in the business, right? And you can start highlighting your experience right then and there. If it's not, if you have a part-time job, or if you just started a couple of months, it was a summer job, an internship, you can still use it, but instead go for the functional resume and highlight your working experience at the very end. Okay? So it's up to you. But if you don't, start with a functional. And I don't know if you can guys read it very thoroughly. If not, I'll invite you to visit our website on the Career Resources page under resumes. And you can see the examples of many types of resume writing and the functional resume itself. As you can see, you put your skills at the very beginning and the employment history at the bottom. You don't have to copy in, but I don't know if you can more or less take a look at it. Human hiring and training employees. Let's say, for example, what do you do? What type of work do you do?
I'm a medical technologist.
Okay, and what is it that you do in your everyday?
I work with Quebec. I do blood testing, blood grouping, antibody screening at McGill University on Central.
Okay, so we can probably say that your work experience skills is working with the public.
I don't work with the
Oh,
public.
you don't?
I work in the lab.
Oh,
I work
I'm sorry. I
alone.
thought you made you did blood
It's like lab testing, like.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I work with Quebec on the phone. They send me the blood and then I test it and I give it to the patient.
So in that case, you can highlight your activities and transform them into skills. You talk on the phone.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with public some sort indirectly or directly. You probably do you do a lot of charting and paperwork, I guess?
I do a lot of like QC, quality control, and it's all like.
You work with data.
Yeah.
Data. So you can put that into your skills.
Okay.
Someone here at the front also, what do you do?
I'm a billing assistant at Montreal Children's Hospital.
Billing assistant.
Also mostly a lot of data entry, but then also running around the hospital collecting information on patients.
So you do work with people.
Yes.
So you can transform that in skills, you know, to put some sort of customer service. You're not really doing a service, well, customer service calling center or anything like it, but you're dealing with patients. You deal with internal customer service, right? Doctors, nurses, right? Databases, you work with computers,
Yeah.
you work with computers, so you can definitely showcase those skills, right? Any questions? Is it more or less clear? Okay, resume writing. This is very important, and believe it or not, I think it's one of the basic things we have to grasp, and it's the first thing we forget. And we fall into the trap of not proofreading. I personally I do a lot of editing of content, and I really sometimes have flaws in which I completely miss the wording, and you know, it's very embarrassing. So Resume writing, keep it simple and clear. Don't over embellish it. You know, passionate, wonderful, in love with health, and yeah, but you know, don't overdo it. Bring your passion. That's different. Tell your story of who you are. Show your personality when you write your resume, so you can tell who you are. Focus on accomplishment and find your focus. If you don't have working experience, what could you say would be an accomplishment if you're, let's say, full-time studying?
Good grades.
Okay, good grades. What are you studying?
Therapy.
Sorry?
Therapy.
Okay. What is, can you highlight something that you've done throughout your studies? Have you done any volunteering? Okay. That's fine. What I'm trying to convey is that even if you don't have the vast working experience yet, you can find what you've done throughout your studies. If you're doing volunteer, if you're doing training outside school or assisting someone, you know, anything you can write as an accomplishment that relates to what you do, it's more than valid. What is the goal of your resume? Where do you want to work? What do you want to do? Make sure you express your goal exactly. And make sure you know what is it. Take your time, you know, and say where do I want to work? What? And that links to researching your target. Where do I want to go? So where do you want to focus? Talked about your achievements. You know, even if you're working part-time. Good grades. If you run a marathon, if you do rock climbing, anything works. If you did volunteering against breast cancer and you run the 5K, anything. Include the keywords. And I chose the example of Nautilus, the gym chain. They have a blog whose motto is "Take Charge." And I went into their blog and I saw what did they mean by taking charge. And they have this little blog in which they talk about their mission and what they do. And I picked up what they were highlighting there. Advice, nutrition, exercise, motivation, health, and training. I'm pretty sure most of you relate a little bit to maybe one of those keywords, if I'm not mistaken. Nutrition, exercise, motivation, health, advice, and training. Think about the target. Where do you want to work? Look and take a look at their websites and see what are they key mottos, what are their slogans, what do they look in their company history for. In the case of Nautilus, if you want to work there and be a personal trainer, you know, try to play the game and use some sort of the keywords they use to your advantage and present that in your resume. I'm not saying lie, definitely not, but try to see and grasp which are the keywords that the company you want to work for speak to you. And very important, proofread and ensure proper grammar. Invite someone else to read and verify your resume. 4 eyes, 6 eyes are better than 2 sometimes. It's very, very embarrassing to send a resume with typos. Extremely embarrassing. Avoid sending your resume to the no pile. As I said before, 9 seconds. The guy will go like this and cross-read. In 9 seconds, it could be in the no pile. It might be a fantastic resume in theory. but it might not contain anything that shows personality or that shows, you know, an alert. Hey, this guy, this girl could be really good. So, what to do when you're avoiding, to avoid sending your resume to the no pile? Avoid being sloppy. Sometimes, and I have to say that I probably did it once or twice looking for a job, I sent my resume that I had saved in my computer, and I didn't even realize that it was not the most updated one. And I was just like, you know, and it's embarrassing, and oops, you know, well, too late. You know, I burned that one, burned that bridge. So take your time, really take your time into writing a good resume, because it's you in the paper, and recruiters want to see that. They want to see the person talking to them through the piece of paper, or even like Monster, for example. We have a tool to create a resume with it. And many other companies, when you apply, they will, you know, they have this. It's called a talent management suite, which is software that controls all the resume database of companies. And when you apply, I don't know if you have seen this, the job posting will send you to a different site that opens and says, enter your name, enter your email, enter your address, enter your qualifications, enter your skills. And you have to fill out the main, you know, I forgot, they're like, you must complete this, otherwise you cannot go to the next page. I forgot the term, anyway. So, if even the companies are giving you the tools to write down the resume, take the time and don't be sloppy. Take your time and write it calmly. Wrong wording or phrases. Use always action. Highlight your accomplishments and show your value. Be concise, do not overdo it, again, and focus on key points. Once again, key points, key wording. What is it that you want? What is it that the company is showcasing as its key elements? Lying, of course. Don't ever lie on a resume. Because when you go into let's say you have a great resume and there's something there that is not really true, the recruiter will find out as soon as you get interviewed. Inventing activities or job titles. Don't be afraid or don't be shy of saying whatever you did. It's always valid. Don't change, because people may pick up the phone and say, is it true that this guy was manager in blah blah? I said, no, he wasn't. Very easy. Too flowery, too embellished, or too general. Don't overdo it. Don't use big adjectives. You know, you can do a little bit of, you know, some fireworks here and there, you know, but don't overdo it. Don't embellish, because it shows that you're trying too hard. Length. Too long. Is there a rule on length for a resume? Does anyone know what is the rule? The length rule.
1 page.
2, 1. Do I hear 3?
2.5.
It depends on your work experience. If you're 60 years old and you've been working in multiple different fields and you have tons of work experience, shouldn't you show that?
1 page.
That's what I say.
You have a good point, but when you write a resume, focus on the type, focus your experience on the. If you have a 4-page resume because you have 25 years of experience, don't put everything on it. Just take what is relevant to the job you're applying.
Should you just put the last 5 years of employment or the last 10 years? Like, I mean, if you're 40 years old, do you put the fact that you were a cashier at Farmer Pre on, or?
Well, if you want to be a cashier on Jean Coutu, probably you can put it. But if you don't. I mean, the answer to the $64,000 question on length, there's no rule. There's no number. It depends. Use your judgment. Yes,
One question.
please.
If, though they're looking at it in 9 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a lot of time. You're not gonna,
Right, good point. But this is where I'm heading at. It all depends also on who you are, your working experience, yes, and the type of job that you're looking for. The ideal length for a person who's just starting in the workforce is 1 page. If you're starting in the workforce, right? If you've never worked. 1 page. No more, no less. If you have up to 10 years experience, 2 pages. That's it. And that's it. If you're vying for a CEO position and you have 25 years experience, it's valid to even go to 3 pages, but nothing more. However, the key point is to highlight the relevant positions you hold in your career that will apply to the job you want. Avoid personal information, date of birth, marital status, height, weight, nobody cares. People used to put a few years back photographs. No need. Bulleted resume. Yeah, this is a boring bulleted presentation. Don't do that in your resume. Okay? Don't. No bullets. Okay. We're going to watch a little video about branding. Utilize your resume to enforce your brand. Bring your story to life and become the perfect candidate. A few months back, I interviewed with a very big recruiter in IT for a company called Zilog, which is a customer of ours. And he had a theory that companies need to hire superheroes. It's true. Superheroes usually go save the world, right? So what recruiters need to look for are superheroes, people who are there to solve the problem that the company has. Why do I bring this up? Because this video says, comic shop to talk about resumes, and it talks about superheroes. And you will see how you can, superheroes have a secret identity, they have a story. You can have that too, and put that in your resume, and make yourself stand out. Brand yourself, brand your personality, each one of you, in a piece of paper. Take a look. Sorry. The volume was
Michael, how you doing?
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you. What you got here?
I'm geeking out on some comics.
Oh, superhero stuff.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I am confused on, I know
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about, like personal brand, resume
Sure.
building, so why exactly are we at a comic book store?
Spending time thinking about superheroes is actually perfect for talking about personal brands. They all have an epic origin story. How does that apply to you or to me or anybody else?
Right,
Well,
careers and all that.
yeah. What people want to know is, how did you get here? And what's the quest that you're on? That's what's going to connect to the people that you want to get hired from. Or
So what I hear you saying is that my mom is wrong and that comic books are not a waste of my time. You hear that, Mom? Talk about the resume. It can be frustrating because it's just a piece of paper and some bullet point. How do you make yourself stand out when you're looking for that job?
You got to think beyond just the bullet points and remember character trumps credentials. You got to bring the story to life. When people ask me what I do, is I'll tell them I teach storytelling.
Right.
Oh, whoa, what do you mean by that?
It's almost like that personal brand elevator pitch. Just get them to lean forward, get them to go,
Yeah. People don't buy the product or the service or the idea. What they buy is the story that's attached to it.
most everyone is like uncomfortable selling themselves. Not only do I have to sell myself, but I'm going to create like a whole brand, and that's really hard.
You already have a personal brand. Everybody who's watching has a personal brand. If you're on social media, you have a personal brand. And people are following all those social media breadcrumbs.
When you go into a job interview, that person has Googled you.
Yeah, Google is the new background check. HR managers, they want to get a sense as to how you convey yourself to the world. They want to see some photos of you.
Right.
Our social media presence is becoming the new extended resume.
Do I need to clean that stuff up, find the dirt on myself?
Yeah, you might want to limit the views on the pictures of you doing a keg stand
Right.
back at the frat.
So edit your privacy settings.
Yeah.
But don't be naive and think that you're not going to get Googled. So what would be your #1 piece of advice to someone who's trying to find the next job, find that thing that they could be excited about?
Turn your story into your credibility, meaning how you see the world and what you care about, what you're curious about, what you're most passionate about. Let that be the driving point to finding the next job. And what happens when you do that, it's the story of who you were born to be.
Like a superhero.
Yeah,
That is money.
right?
Michael, good to see you, my man. Thanks for all the insight, the
It
advice.
was awesome talking to you.
And ready?
Yo,
Twin powers?
activate.
I gotta do that.
So yeah, it's kind of dorky a little bit and cute in a way, but I think it speaks for itself, right? I love the phrase that says character trumps credentials, and I think this is what summarizes what I've been telling you. Sometimes you can have everything in a piece of paper, but if it shows no personality, nobody's going to buy it. So each one of you has a personal story, has a personality, pardon me. Bring that into what you want to convey to the people who's going to read your resume. Show your passion on what you like. Why did you study what you're studying? What is it that you want to achieve? What is your origin? How did you get here? And what quest are you on? Where do you want to get? As I said, character trumps credentials. Bring your story to life, because people will buy the story attached to you, and everyone has a personal brand. Also, I don't know if you guys are pretty big or not on social media. As I said before, if you engage into certain activities that pertain to your field of studies, it's okay to maybe create not your Facebook page when you're partying, but you can have like an Instagram account or a Google account in which you're showing, you're rock climbing, or you're doing like a walkathon, something that pertains to your field of expertise, and you can attach that to your resume. You can add it as an annex or extra links, because if there's no particular full-time job experience, at least people will know that you've engaged in activities that pertain to what you want to be doing in the end. Now, finally, nonprofit resume tips. These are a few little tips if anyone of you is interested or thinking into going into nonprofit, into the companies that are more like founded by donations, etc., right? So, nonprofits understand work-life balance needs. Health, for example, does not need to be a hobby. So nonprofit resumes must focus on the accomplishments, not just duties, and quantifying them. If you have no experience, don't worry. Add any volunteering work. Have you shown any support in a walkathon? And as I said, use social media to show your involvement if you can, and if you're interested in going into the nonprofit industry instead of a corporation. Any questions? Yes?
How important is it to let's say you list let's say you list 3 work experiences.
Mhm.
How important is it to have bullet points explaining what you were doing during that work experience? Let's say acted as accomplished, or
It is important, but try to use, avoid bulleting, but if you
Okay.
avoid that, don't
Yeah.
go A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
go. But, well, you can put a little dash, but use action verbs and
Okay.
display, it is important, but instead of saying, took part doing, took part in walkathon. Turn that into something more with a punchline, I completed the 5K marathon against or for Concordia in order to, I'm just making this up, but
Okay.
I just want to convey that it is important that you
Yeah,
showcase
you guys still want to see
in
it.
guidelines,
Okay.
yes, but don't label it as
Okay.
a bullet.
Okay.
Pretty much tell the story and say with a punch, like action verbs. Yeah. Anyone else?
Would you suggest to do the same with your education, or is that,
I'm sorry.
would you suggest to do the same with your education, or would that stay more classic?
I would. Education, of course, it's important, but you don't have to overload the reader with everything you've studied. Make it as concise as possible, but highlight the most important things, and especially if it's something, once again, it all has to do with targeting and focusing where you want to go. Make sure that your education, you're going to say, I went to kindergarten in, I was a daycare at, but you're going to just focus on the particular and most important sentence or the most important educational background, but don't overdo it. You can list it, but don't make a whole Bible out of it, just to the point. Because yes, it's important, they will look at it, but sometimes what matters is, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes what matters is not that what you study, yes it does, but they're going to see what you're going to bring to the table. In the end, theory is one thing, but once you're out in the world and practice, you'll see that it's very different. It's like when you learn a language and you go to the country that speaks that language and you find out that I cannot understand a word. It's just like that. You'll see. So don't panic. But it's true. When I moved to Montreal, I studied French for 6 years at the French school from France, and when I moved to Quebec, I completely felt, whoa, this is not what I learned in the books, Of course, now it's different, but you'll see that in the theory and the practice is so different. So once you get there, you'll see that no matter how much you read some, again, I apologize, I don't want to say that education is important, it is, but you will see that once you're in the workforce, it's everyday learning, and you're going to be growing by experience.
Education never stops. The older you
Exactly.
get, you realize that there's more you need to know.
Once you leave the school, you never stop learning, but it's a different way of learning.
And there's no GPA and there's no 80% or any of that stuff. You're either right nail on the head or you learn from your mistakes and you move forward.
That's right. Any other questions?
Like, if you have volunteer experience, but that's not pretty related to your work skills that you're going to,
Mm-hmm.
and then how to integrate it to kind of show your personality, like your
I can hear you.
passion
Uh-huh.
is about,
If you find, okay, let me see if I'm sorry, let me figure it out. If you're saying if you find a job,
like I have a previous volunteer
Mhm.
experience,
Mhm.
which is not related to the job.
to the job you want,
Mhm.
you integrate it as well, because as I was explaining on the resume example,
Mhm.
it all has, you can turn that experience into skills. What experience did you have? What volunteering did you do?
I kind of interview the
You've interviewed people?
And then
That's good.
write their biographies and
Mm-hmm.
then do some presentation to the staff. And then I would work
Mm-hmm.
will be some kind of exercise recreational clinic kind of thing. So how should I?
It doesn't. It's a good question. I'm going to return very quickly to the resume example. Basically, you mentioned very important points. You said you've interviewed people, you've entered stuff in database, and you make presentations.
Yeah.
So you have computer skills, you have people skills, you have HR skills. You might go into health and therapy, which might say so.
Well, I study athletic therapy also. So
You study what, sir?
athletic therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's okay, because wherever you go and look for a job, you can showcase the fact that you had some volunteering, even though it was not part of what you want to do. It gave you certain skills, right? It gave you skills to talk, to interact with people. If you were interviewing, you know, you're showcasing the fact that you had to do presentations. It doesn't matter if you're gonna go and maybe be a personal trainer at a gym, because somebody would say, well, you don't have the personality to train, despite the fact that you are really fit and you know everything in theory, you might not even be a likable person. Well, yeah, and somebody will say, you know what, I don't want to train with this person because he's really, I don't like this person, you know, he has no personality, no charm, yeah, he's here to train me, but he doesn't even know how to treat people, he doesn't even know how to talk to people. If you're going to train someone for, and I'm sorry I've used this example, if you're going to, personal training usually interviews the person who wants to hire him, and the trainer needs to ask the right questions, and needs to know how to interview the candidate, to make sure the guy doesn't strain himself or gets injured, and then sues him, right? So, if the health instructor doesn't even know how to ask the right questions, he's not going to engage people to go and hire him. So in your case, you've developed the skill of interviewing with people, and believe it or not, everything helps. Doesn't matter how little it is. It doesn't matter if it has nothing to do with your field of expertise. Everything, every little detail helps. Just think about, how can I sell myself with that? Okay, I think time is ahead of me now, but thank you very much for coming and listening. Good luck.